Why Trump won this election as I take a walk.
In order to understand why Trump won the election, we first need to understand something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Basically, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is organizing and categorizing everything that we need to survive and ranking them by how much we actually need those things. And so you can see down here, we first got physiological needs, safety and security, all the way up to self-actualization. The idea is that the things at the top are only important to you if the level beneath it is taken care of. So you're not going to care about morality and creativity as much unless you've got your confidence, achievement, respect, friendship, families, health, employment, food, shelter taken care of. Which is also really important to think about, considering that according to Gallup Poll, up to 90% of people who voted in this election, whether they voted for Trump or for Harris, cited the economy or something to do with the economy as their number one issue in how they voted. And as much as Democrats might want to deny it, inflation is up 20.1% since Trump left office. Food alone is up 28% since 2019. And housing is up 54% since 2019. Also, I am sorry if I sounded out of breath, or will continue to do so, because I am out of shape, and I'm trying to fix that. Essentially what this means is that many things are more important to us than other things, whether we like it or not. Your need for food is more important to you than your need to have trans athletes compete in sports. Whether you agree with trans athletes competing in sports or not, the fact is, you cannot survive without food. You can survive without them not competing in sports. Now, I know what you're saying. This isn't really happening. There's not nearly as many people starving as you think there are, but it is. I'm a school teacher. I have a lot of students who only eat when they're at the school building. I have students struggling with homelessness, or who don't know if they're going to be in a home or an apartment or have a roof over their head next week. And I live in a red state where the cost of living is very low, and wages, comparably, are pretty high. And no, it's not Alabama. I just got my master's degree there. Roll Tide. Now, I know you can blame the inflation issue on Trump just as much as you can on Biden. A lot of people like to say that financial policies of presidents aren't really felt immediately, and they can take years before they're actually felt. And that is, in many cases, in some instances, true. But the fact of the matter is, people are going to blame the person who's in charge every single time. And right now, that's Biden. And whether she likes it or not, Kamala Harris is intimately tied with the actions of President Biden. And that's why she gets asked about the economy a lot, because whether she's responsible for it or not, she is perceived as part of the problem. And her answers have to be something that distances herself from Biden's actions. But if she distances herself too much, then it seems like a not unified front and weak leadership between the two of them. On the flip side, if she answers saying that Biden's been doing a great job and she agrees with everything, people are going to think we're just going to get more of the same thing. So she's screwed no matter how she answers this question. And every time I saw her answer this question, she gave the best answer possible, which is, as vice president, I support the actions and decisions of President Joe Biden, but I am a different person, and if elected, I would do things my way. It's a great answer. It's a politician's answer, but it's a great answer. The problem is, it's also vague, and you don't really get anything out of that answer. And so voters are stuck between choosing someone who gave that answer, where she's damned if she does, damned if she doesn't, and a politician who could say, hey, are you better now than you were 4 years ago? And the fact of the matter is, most people aren't better off than they were 4 years ago. Whether it's Trump's fault or Harris's fault, they're not better off, and they're going to blame the person who's in charge right now for why they are suffering right now. Don't get me wrong, facts are extremely important when we talk about politics and policy, but perception is more important, because if the people are perceiving things one way, that's how they're going to vote, regardless of how the facts are. Now, it's one thing for me to just say this, it's another for me to have historical precedent, which I have. Let's look at the historical precedent. This is from a Facebook post I made about this same topic. In fact, what I'm saying is pretty much just a paraphrase of it. But as you can see, and you can feel free to fact check this yourself, the civil rights movement happened in 63 and 64, right on the curtails of a recession that ended in 62. The Affordable Care Act was signed in 2010 after the recession of 2008 and 2009 happened. The Violence Against Women Act was signed in 1994 when the economy was doing fantastic. The 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868, which was a time of rapid growth and lots of industrialization for the United States. And Congress passed the 19th Amendment onto the states for ratification in the short period between two recessions. Basically what this means is that historically, American voters only care about social issues when their physical needs are taken care of, or at the very least when they don't feel like their physical needs are in danger. Now, what this is not saying is that trans rights, abortion rights, any of these other social issues like affordable health care is not important. These are very important. We know they are important because we talk about them so much. If they weren't important, we wouldn't talk about it. But according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can't enjoy those rights if you're dead because you starved, because you couldn't feed yourself, or because you froze to death because you were homeless. And it doesn't matter who's responsible for it, it matters who gets blamed for it. And one administration got blamed for it, and the other candidate capitalized on that. There's a great question that I hinted at the Trump administration being able to ask a few minutes ago, and really that comes from the 1980 debate between Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, when Ronald Reagan stood on the stage in his closing remarks and said, "Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?" And the answer for most Americans was no. And Ronald Reagan won on a landslide, way more than Trump did. In fact, Reagan only lost one state. Pretty sure it was Minnesota, may have been Massachusetts, one of those M's. When people's pockets feel light, they vote for money. When people's pockets feel heavy, they vote for social issues. And that is why Trump won. Because even though both he and Harris promised similar outcomes of financial prosperity, people blamed Harris as being part of the establishment. She couldn't distance herself from it enough, and they went to the Republican side, hoping that in the next 4 years, things will be different. I'm going to go finish my walk now. You let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. I know that there are other issues that were important this election, but this has got to be number one. By every poll I've seen, economics, number one. Also like and subscribe for more. Unless you root for LSU, then you can get out.